Dear listeners, welcome to part 2 of how to ask great questions and the things that we cannot unsee about great questions. Again, this is part 2. We recommend highly that you go back and listen to part 1 for the context that you'll need to make sense of all this. And also, if you want to go ahead, we're not stopping you. So go right on ahead because part 2 is really fun. We had a great time recording this podcast. We split it up into 2 pieces because it got too long and we respect your attention span. And also, we wanted to take a week off of recording. And so, welcome to part 2. Have fun.
You're the kind of person who likes watching a movie starting halfway through. You're a freaking weirdo,
Have
but,
at it.
props, stay weird, and, enjoy.
Hey, I'm Kim.
And I'm Pancho, and you're listening to Now That You See It, a show that will ruin you for boring conversations forever.
It's about the invisible stuff that shapes how we think and connect, those, oh, wait, what? Moments that change how you perceive the world around you.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. What about you? What makes a good question?
Yeah. There's the anatomy, right? Like the actual building blocks of a good question. And you touched on them. A good question starts with what or how. It can start with who or when.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah,
that
yeah,
happens, what happens for you? So it's kind of like, using both what and when. Um, why is an interesting one. And you brought this up. Why could fall under the list of questions that you use to start a good question. But the word why could also be received as judgmental in a way that what or how might not be received judgmentally as easily, right? Why did you do that is a very neutral question on the face of it, but depending on the conversation and the tone of voice, it could be received as a very judgmental thing. So so there's that building block, right? And I love the analogy you used of just kind of like free play, give kids the building blocks and
yeah.
then let them do
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want. So do that with a question. Give somebody a question that allows them to build or progress or think in whatever direction is most important to them. Coming back to making the question about them instead of about you. If your question gives them 360-degree freedom to go in whatever direction is most important to them when they start to think about an answer, that's a good question.
Oh, I love that. That's a great heuristic.
And
Yeah.
so another way of thinking about it is a good question doesn't have an agenda.
It's very hard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a good
Mm-hmm.
question is just purely rooted in curiosity. And so everything I heard you say, the way I think about it is, are you coming to that conversation from a place of curiosity? And if you really are, that like childlike, playful, I wonder what's going to happen next feeling of curiosity, if that's your come from, if that's the place that you're in when you give somebody a question, that gets you 90% of the way there.
Yeah. It really does.
Um, yeah, yeah,
You can
because all
screw
the
up
things
so
you
many of the
talked about.
words. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And like the body language is going to come naturally, right? Like you are going to embody curiosity if that's really what you're holding as your mental and emotional state. So, um, I think, yeah, really it's that there, and there are a lot of other technicalities, like not
Mm-hmm.
stacking questions. Ask one question. Don't ask 4 questions, one right after another, and then make it a chore for the person who's going to give you an answer to figure out, are these all the same questions? If they're not, which of the questions should I answer? They'll usually end up answering the last question you asked them, but then as the person asking, you don't even get answers to all of the other questions that you asked before. So asking one question, you can always realize like, shit, that was not exactly the question I meant to ask. Pay attention to what they answer. You might get really fascinating answer. And even though it's not the question you meant to ask, the information you get back, if you are truly curious, will be interesting, most likely. And
Oh.
then if you're still burning to ask the question you didn't ask the first time around, ask it once they're done telling you what their answer is. Don't interrupt them because then you're invalidating what's important to them.
Mhm.
What's important to them is the answer I'm giving you right now, right? If you cut them off and say, no, 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 that's not what I meant to ask you, then to some degree you've said the question I meant to ask you is more important than what you're telling me right now. So notice the relational dynamics and how you're asking. I think the last thing I'll say is silence.
Mhm.
Just like curiosity is a superpower. Um, if you ask somebody a question and halfway through their answer, you go, or, or even just, oh, me too.
Yeah.
You immediately just like, you cut them off. And even the just, oh, me too, that opportunity to create some sort of rapport with them, you're once again making it about yourself and you're not making it about them. So you can always wait for them to finish talking and then say, oh, that happens for me too, in this way or that. Um, but if you jump in halfway through, you might be cutting him off too early and realizing it's
Yeah.
actually not the same, right? Like the me too, once you actually talk it through more, it's different from them than it is for you. And you cut them off too soon. And you tried to create a bridge of rapport when there wasn't one there. And now all you've done is you've just made yourself more important than their answer.
You know, you made me think about the pausing thing and, like, people aren't done thinking. I have 2 neurodivergent kids. One in particular, like, their particular flavor of neurodivergence is social cues are harder, and so we've had to teach, like, really teach stuff that to one kid that we don't teach the other. Um, one one of the hardest things for both of them, but especially for one, is interruptions. Can't stop. Can't stop interrupting. It is like the Jimmy Fallon, Will Ferrell skit from SNL, like, when I think it's Jimmy Fallon's playing, like, Journey, "Just a small town girl," and Will Ferrell's like, "What's her name?" You're like, "Oh my god. Can I put 3 words together before you jump in with a question?"
Totally.
And what the rule we use is don't interrupt, don't speak until somebody takes a breath and, like, takes a full breath, and, as parents, we say, like, "Okay, now it's your turn." But socially, and I use this all the time with, like, people I'm in connection with when I'm talking to them. I'm really careful to not interrupt even when they've stopped talking because they haven't stopped thinking and that they feel like they're still talking. So, when you hear the pause, just like that, it might have felt natural to jump in, and, like, you don't necessarily, but other people might have been like, "Great, she's done talking because she took a breath." I'm not done. I am still
Yeah.
formulating my next sentence, and it's really like the physical cue of "I'm done" is the, like,
Yeah.
the, like there's usually something that, like, officially hands us back over, and so part of, like, the mechanics of being a good question asker is being a good listener. Part of being a good listener is knowing when it's your turn. And your turn isn't when there's a first 1 millisecond of silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that if you do that, then what happens for me, what's happened for me on this journey of becoming a coach is instead of thinking about what I want to respond with as they're talking to me, I have that pause and I let them, there's when you take that moment, that pause, there's some sort of signal, like you said, some sort of energetic something that happens.
Yeah.
But that pause is also the time I take to start formulating how I'm going to respond to everything they just said. And
Oh.
that allows me to actually be listening while they're talking. So I'm not waiting for my turn to talk, going, like, oh, you just said something that resonates. Like, just take it in, take it in, take it in, pause, notice what they're doing. And as you do that, think about, okay, what do I want to say next? Given everything they just said, where does my curiosity take me from here?
We should do a whole episode on listening, what it means to
Yeah, I
listen,
think we'll
because
do that one next.
there's so much here. As, like, we're thinking about right now the mechanics of a good question, the what's and the hows, being a good active listener, bringing genuine curiosity, like, there really isn't you're right, like, there's not too much of, like, secret formula for it. It's curiosity, what's and hows, where possible. I will say, however, exception to this rule that we've had to institute in my house, there are some what's and how questions that are banned, and they sound like this. What do you think you're doing? What the hell is happening right now? Or
Curious
what did she
questions.
say the other day? What is why would you do that? And so anything that is that's a why, but anything that is basically a question, it's like a judgment sentence with a question mark at the end, banned.
Totally, totally.
And
What
those
were
can
you
start with what's
thinking?
and hows. What were you
Could
thinking? That's a good one.
yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Um, yeah.
oh, go ahead. You're not done.
No, I was gonna shift into the next topic. Were you gonna do that?
I was gonna shift us to small talk.
Yeah.
To take, like, a very approachable topic that applies to everybody and everybody fucking hates.
But he hates it because it's boring.
This is the remedy for small talk. This is the antidote. How do you approach those, like, awkward small talk situations now that you've got this toolkit in your belt?
Couple of a couple of things. One is I um I have big warm energy personally. Like when I meet people and I'm like mixing and mingling, I have pretty open energy. It just starts things off well. Like it removes part of I think why we hate small talk is because it can feel really awkward. So I naturally and also work at it, approach situations with my shoulders back, a big smile, like my eyes open. There's warmth. It diffuses things. It allows the other person to feel less awkward too. And sometimes I overdo it and I'm like, oops, too big. Because I can see them go like, whoa. Um, but generally,
Not
like it's
friends
the
yet.
right. Total, I'm a hugger.
Yeah, totally.
Pancho, if we ever meet in person, you're gonna get the biggest bear hug ever.
Yeah, expected.
So yeah, it's like a what?
Oh, I said that's expected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that helps is just energetically diffusing tension because small talk, usually you're nervous. It's like, like, what's the script? Like, everybody hates it. So it's just like friendly, normal, warm. Number one. The second is before I even, I don't know, open my mouth, I can take a person in and just notice about them. So I usually can notice something like, what a cool sweater, or like cool earrings, or like this changed, or like there's usually something about them that either saw someone they knew or just like whatever it is. I look for the like uniqueness about them in the moment and highlight that, like offer a compliment, offer some warmth about them because that's another way to just continue to diffuse the awkwardness. And this is not all like my Machiavellian strategy to like get people to like I don't know, like me, but it ends up working out. So I guess it's not as like deterministic as this, but that's generally what works and what like helps me sets me up for warmer small talk. And then mechanistically, I stay away from this what feels like hitting a tennis ball against a wall of just like ba-dang, ba-dang, ba-dang. It's the like, hey, how are you? Good, how are you? Like, how's the weather? Da, 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 and like, how are the kids? Da, 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 and just good, 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 fine, good. How are you? And oh my God, punch me in the face. So the question I usually open up with is after the like, hi, it's so good to see you. Comment like the room you're in. Da, da, da. What's exciting for you right now
yeah,
is how I start. Almost always, or like, what fun thing did you do over the weekend? What's your summer been like? Like, what's one thing fun you've done here? Or just having people reflect on positive experiences warms them up. Like uplifts their energy and they leave feeling better about you too. And then you have more fun in that conversation as opposed to what we usually do, which drives me crazy, which is How's it going? Busy. Oh, yeah. What are you busy with? And then they start complaining. And you're like, now we're just in
Mm,
this like conversation death spiral of negativity.
yep,
I don't want to
yep,
be here. You don't want to be here. Now you hate your life and you're going to blame me. I don't want this. So usually it's I find a positive thing to focus on. And then if I'm like going to be in a like today I was at the conference. So like I usually pick uh an outfit or something like things that are notable or memorable because then it gives people something to ask about and say. It like gives them an opportunity. So I put stickers on my mugs or my laptop or just like I allow myself to it's not because I want to stand out for the sake of it. It's their bridges, their invitations, their opportunities. Ask about this. I want to talk to me. I carry bags with names on them of like local organizations. It's just easier. It gives people a bridge into it. Um, so that's sort of my like small talk formula is energetic warmth, finding a way to compliment them and asking about something positive to get them talking positive. And then you can and just like, I don't know, let's go. I can talk a lot about this, but what is small talk like for you and how do you avoid the small talk death spiral?
yeah. I'll talk about that. Um, Reflecting back to you and kind of what came up for me as you were talking, the first one is, are you are you familiar with the term reverse charisma?
No, I love that though.
Okay. So everything you just said is like we all know what a charismatic person is, right? A charismatic person is somebody who lights up the room. They grab everyone's attention as they're in the room. Big personality, lots of exuding a lot of positivity. A person who has reverse charisma brings out the charisma in the people they're interacting with,
Oh, I love that.
which is just a
Goals.
superpower on a
Goals.
whole nother level, right? And all of
Mhm.
the things that you talked about are how you do reverse charisma. You get excited about the other person, you draw out of them whatever they think is the most positive thing to talk about. You leave them feeling good about themselves because you're excited about what they're excited about. And you're
Yeah.
genuinely curious to learn more about it. So that's the first thing. And the second thing was you talked about, like the opposite direction, finding the things to complain about. Oh, yeah, like I'm super busy or, traffic was terrible this morning. Um, Complaining about the same thing is a cheap way to build what feels like intimacy that is not healthy.
That's a great way to say it. A cheap way to build intimacy. Yes, it's the
Yeah.
Cheetos of intimacy.
It's
Yes.
like gossip. Gossip and complaining about the same thing
Yes.
because gossip is, it's complaining about a person. So, big picture, if you find yourself complaining about something that's just like generally stupid, it's yeah, you're having negativity Cheetos and that's what you're building intimacy on. That's a foundation of your relationship with this person. Um, it's not reverse charismatic. So when somebody is accustomed to doing that and you show up and you do the opposite for them, it's just like a fucking breath of fresh air for that person, right? If they're used to building cheap intimacy through complaining about the weather, and then you show up and you're like, what exciting thing did you get up to this weekend? Blows their doors wide open.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that came up for me. The only thing I think I want to add to this conversation, because I hate it with every bone in my body, is the question, so what do you do?
Oh,
Hate
totally.
it. Hate it.
Yeah.
It's just like, um, yeah, like I puke a little bit in my mouth every time somebody asks me that question.
Especially if there's no prelude. If you're not like talking adjacently about work and someone's like,
Totally.
"Wait a minute, what do you do?"
Yeah.
If it's just like, "What do you do?" as a like, prove your qualifications.
Or like it's like you meet somebody and you're like, hey, I'm Pancho. They go, hey, I'm John. And then you're meeting for the first time. So they don't know anything about you. They're looking to build some degree of, trying to understand who you are. If that's the question they lead with, talk about boring people.
Yeah.
What that signals to me is literally the most important thing you think you could learn about me is what I do to make money.
Mhm.
It's not
Well,
the most
yeah, and
important,
there's an
like,
implicit judgment in that question of,
there
like,
could
how
be.
much.
Sure, there could be,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, but that aside, it's just like, is that how you see people? You know, like, for me personally, are you so bought into the capitalist culture that says your value is how much money you make or the 3 letters you've got after your name or any of that shit? Are you so, like, brainwashed into that, that that's the best question you got
Yeah.
when you try to meet somebody and build a friendship with them? So,
It's scripts. Yeah.
yeah. So, like, throw that question, and, but usually when people ask me that question, I'll say something along the lines of, like, I get outside a lot. I mountain bike, I rock climb. I love to have fun with my wife. I take my dog on walks. Um, I also sit at my computer and talk to people a good chunk of time, and that's how I make money, and make it, like, super vague. But I throw my answer in their face to make it
Mhm.
really clear to them, like, that was a terrible question. Like, that's not going to
Yeah.
work here. And
Yeah.
then I'll usually follow up with something that's a different question about them, because I really don't care to know that as the first thing I learn about a person.
Oh my god, totally. I mean, the other flavor of small talk, there's this, like, you get so into the job question is like, I want to know the scaffolding of who you are. And, like, for me, I'm pretending I'm that jerk who just asked you the question. The, like, pillars of you are, like, what I can see in front of me and the job you have, because that is identity and that is socioeconomic status and that is brain power and da da da. And, like, family. Do you have a family? And it's just like, I'm making it up, but there are, like, just these pillars that create a very quite unstable picture of somebody. And I think what we're offering is an alternative that, like, there aren't pillars of an identity that you need to, like, fill in the blanks. There's, like, these little bits and pieces of puzzles that change all the time. It's sort of like a sand drawing, and you're trying to figure out what exactly is this sand drawing? Where are we in the sand drawing? What is it gonna end up being? And, like, tomorrow, are we gonna shake it all up and do something different, ask new questions? You know, Pancho, one thing as we were talking and, like, ask people positive things about their life so that, like, there's just this energy, blah, 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 blah. You know what I was like? People are gonna be like, "Yeah, F you toxic positivity people." And I have a feeling people might hear this and go like, what if somebody asks, like, "How are you doing?" and I'm not doing
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
What do I do? Do you
Mm,
do you have these how do you answer that question? Because, like, we don't want to say to people, like, "Just talk about the nice things and, like,
yeah.
make it all make nice."
Yeah.
There's a place for vulnerability without the conversation death spiral.
Totally.
How do you work with that?
Great question. I love this question.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, it's a good thought. And it actually helps me say one last thing that I had to come to mind is, about the what do you do question, but it also applies to this. Um, the what do you do question is a perfect example of a question that has an agenda. When
Yes,
when
totally.
somebody asks, "What do you do?" their agenda is, "I have these 2 pillars. Your identity is your job and your family life, and I'm going to
Mhm,
lead us to talk about those things. That's my agenda." And it doesn't give that person 360-degree range to talk in whatever direction they've liked. You've now locked that person into talking about their job or their family, which may
mhm,
not be what they're excited to talk about. It could very likely be the thing that they fucking hate about their lives. And you're now telling them to bring it up and think about it, right? So, so there's that. When it comes to, "Hey, how are you?" And, like, "I'm not doing that great." The 2 things that come to mind for me are, okay, how willing and ready am I to receive a negative answer from somebody? That's important, right? Boundaries are important. If it's somebody who I'm just meeting, my willingness to go deep with them and, like, go to a bad place is different than if it's one of my best friends. And
mhm.
that's fair. You don't have to be a best friend to everybody the moment they tell you they're in a bad place. But once again, and here's the other thing that might happen. Here, let me control you by telling you, "Well, I'm sure it's gonna be okay," or like,
Mm,
"Tomorrow will be better," like, so that's another thing that might happen when somebody says, "I'm not doing so hot," is you might get uncomfortable with the fact that that's a thing, and instead of using a boundaried way of managing that, you say something like you try to control them and you try to shift the conversation. That's toxic positivity, is
mhm.
even though you're doing bad now, it's okay, and I don't want to feel this with you. Um, my approach is to still figure out what's most important for them.
Yeah.
If you've told me I'm not doing so well, I have no idea how willing you are or how eager you are, how resistant you are to get into it. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna say, "Oh, yeah," and, like, acknowledge, "Yeah, okay, I wasn't expecting you to say that." Something along those lines. It's totally fine to have a genuine reaction and say, you know, "How can I support you if you are willing to support? Do you wanna talk about it? How does it feel to, like, talk about it more?" Um, "Tell me more," can be a good one depending on, kind of what the conversation has been up till that point.
Mm.
Um, "Tell me more" is not a who or what, but it's definitely a wide open question.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's not even a question, but it is. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I think the big picture gist is okay. You just said something. You answered in saying that you're having a bad time. You gave me an energetically negative answer. Let's still make my response about what is most important to you. How can I support you? Do you want to talk about it? That kind of a response, because then it still makes it about them.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think you summed it up really well. This question is totally dependent on who you're talking to. Like, if it's somebody you trust, you're familiar with, who would be it would honestly be, like, awkward to be like, "I'm totally fine." They're like, "You don't look fine.
You
I
don't
know
look fine.
things. You don't
Yeah.
look fine." Go with it, but I think the and then there's obviously people who, like, complete strangers who you're gonna be like, "Great, fine, good." And you're moving on, because it's not where you wanna be. It's the in between people who you're like, I could say not great." Who says that though? What do I do with that as a answer giver? And then is that unfair to the to the questioner? Um, and so one of the things I've done, because I've had some ups and downs, grief wise and just like stress wise, and there are days when it's just like it's heavy. Like I would really be lying if somebody asked me, How's it going?" And I'm like, "So great." So great. And so what I end up saying if it really is, it's all judgment, like, who is this person to you? Can you trust them with your news, with your secrets or not secrets, just your tenderness, your tender parts. I tend to say something like, "You know, I'm in a hard moment right now, but I'm, like, really well taken care of. I've got
Yeah.
really good support, and thanks for asking. I'm not in a place to really talk more about it, but I really appreciate you asking." And something
Yeah.
like that, and, like, then I go, like, "Tell me what's exciting for you," or just, "Tell me what's going on for you." But it's usually looks something like that of being like, "I'm in a tough moment, it's been a little up and down, I've had some hard days," and then I'll share if I don't really wanna talk more about it, I'm really well supported. If I do wanna
Totally.
talk more and I do wanna engage in the conversation, then I don't then, like, I'll say, "I'm really well supported," and, like and it's still hard, and they'll usually follow up with something, and then I can engage in it. But,
Totally.
I have learned to, open up a little bit more about that because I used to feel really guilty about putting that on somebody that, like, oh, I don't wanna make it awkward for them," and I don't know. I just have come to learn that not only do I feel better when I can be honest, even just a little bit, like, not the full story, um, people genuinely want to help, and especially if you do it without dumping on them, which that is not. People feel closer to you, and then they get the oxytocin benefit of that social interaction on a deeper
Totally.
level than they would have if you were like, "Great, fine, and you busy? Oh yeah." Mm.
Once again, you just, I mean, like what I'm hearing you there is like we're seeing each other as complete human beings. And sometimes that doesn't look like rainbows and butterflies, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
boundaried ways of talking about it to let somebody know, here's how far I'm willing to go in talking about it, or I'm
Yeah.
not willing to go in, like I'm not willing to say anything more about it beyond what I'm saying right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
That's a good one.
Um, we're getting there on time. We're at an hour 20. There are two more things. I know. We always tell ourselves we're gonna keep it under an
we
hour, and sometimes we
we
succeed, and
have the
sometimes we
option of
totally
splitting
drop
this
the
into
ball.
2 podcasts.
We could do that. Okay.
Mhm.
So, quickly, when is a question not the right tool?
Mm.
We've alluded to it. What comes to mind for you?
Um, when someone's dysregulated. Um, so I do a lot of work with, uh, teaching about dysregulation, like somatic dysregulation, brain dysregulation, and living it, like, with my family, and that's a bad time to ask a question. When somebody has flipped their lid and they're in the amygdala and, like, there's no prefrontal cortex going on, they're sensory overwhelmed, they're like it is not a great time to be like, "What's wrong? What happened?" It's just treating the symptoms and, like, finding a way back to somatic regulation and then being able to ask a question then. So that's one thing that comes up is, like, somebody is, um, really dysregulated, like, it takes prefrontal cortex activity to answer a good question. So the questioner needs to know that the person they're questioning, um, is physiologically and mentally, emotionally ready to answer the question. And the other time it comes up, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was just gonna ask, what do you do instead? If somebody's in their limbic system, they're in their amygdala, they're not in their prefrontal cortex, how do you approach that situation instead?
Oh man, I'm pausing because I just started like 8 sentences in my head. So again, always it depends on who it is and how dysregulated. When, for instance, okay, so here's a situation at work. You run into a colleague who is just leaving a meeting where they got a bad performance review or it was like just insanely frustrating and they're like in tears of with frustration or just like just about there or their face is so red and they're just like I would in those moments ask them if anything just like okay, I'm here with you. What do you need from me right now? And that by itself might be too much. Like, there might be a chance that they could say, like, I just need to da da da. I might not even do that. I'm in those cases, I might say, you want to come sit down and have a glass of water with me? And just like remove, change locations, quiet. I mean, I'm coming from the perspective of a parent who has had kids with lots of big emotions over the years. And it's like not cute. And so what we have learned is it's just so important to treat the symptoms first and be able to, in those moments, like that is a time when you need to be in charge.
Yeah,
As a parent, that is a time when you are like, you're not giving advice, you are telling, we are going to move over here now. You are safe. Da, da, da. And like just doing all, it's just big meltdown, panic, de
yeah,
escalations. Um, Giving them their bodies what they need, and for my kids, it's, it's hugging, it's a glass of water, it's affirmations, and it's, rocking a blanket, usually something heavy on them, all these things to get them back in their body. You're not gonna do that with your colleague,
yeah,
but I would say, like, "Wow, I can tell this is awful. Like, it's awful. Do you wanna come sit down and have a glass of water with me?" Or if you're remote, just like, "You know what? We don't need to talk about any of this. We're just right here. Just,
yeah,
like, do you wanna turn the camera off and just cry? Do you wanna da da da?" Offering them, directed options, which is it's literally the opposite of the question strategy we just gave, is, like, very narrow options, and often it's not even that, it's just I'm here. I'm just here.
Yeah.
Um, the other time questions are not the right tools comes up are when, like, you personally aren't ready to receive the answers. Like, if you're not ready, don't ask. So, I think, it's not just dysregulation, like, there are times when you're a consultant, you are paid to give the advice. There are, when you are, talking to a partner or friend and they're like, "I just need to vent," just, like, "Don't talk. Just let me just talk at you." Um, but the flip side of it is, like, you gotta be ready to be the listener. What about you?
The example I wanted to bring to this question is really similar to what you already shared, so I'll make it quick.
Okay.
It's when somebody can't when you ask somebody a question from a place of curiosity, they also need to be predisposed to being curious. If they're
Ugh,
dysregulated, they're not gonna get curious, right? Like, if somebody is in a
mm-mm.
state of fear, overwhelm,
Yeah,
chronic stress, all of those things don't leave room for curiosity. And what you can do for them, so I actually taught a workshop on curiosity and communication at a co-working space up in Tahoe yesterday,
oh,
and
cool.
which was great. And
Oh, fun.
somebody who's a personal trainer and a physical
Mm.
therapist said, "When my clients come to me and they've just had a knee surgery, if I begin our interaction by asking them questions, they're already dealing with so much uncertainty about whether they'll ever have a functioning knee like the one they had before, that asking them questions is the wrong approach. I
Totally.
need to tell them, here is what is going to happen. Here's what it's going to look like." So they're already dealing with so much uncertainty that I need to create a safety container of certainty
Mhm.
for them. And once I have them there, and once they feel safe and they realize, okay, it's going to be okay, I'm in good hands, then the opportunity for them to get curious kind of arises on its own. And then they start asking questions. Okay, well, what's it going to look like when this or that? And then they're able to get curious and step into answering questions about themselves from a place of curiosity once you've created that container of safety for them. And sometimes that looks like being an authority figure and saying,
Yeah,
here's what's going to happen, here's what it's going to look like, here's what you can expect, here's what I expect of you.
yeah.
So very similar to what you said about people being dysregulated.
I love that though, because it's another angle on it of, like, noticing when the person it's not just dysregulation that's obvious, like, I'm talking about my kids, but also just, like, somebody in clearly emotionally flooded state. It's also just, like, sometimes people at baseline are not ready.
Totally.
'Cause their baseline state is it's fear, it's judgment, and cynicism, and there are questions and relationships and energy that can unlock that for people, but it's not your job. Like, there are ways to soften it a bit, but it's
Yeah.
ultimately not it's theirs. It's their work.
Yeah. Cool.
That's a good one. Favorite
Well,
questions? We're definitely gonna do a
yeah.
part 2.
Let's do let's do some favorite questions. Yeah, if anything, just on listening, right? But I'm curious what are two of your favorite questions of all time?
Whoa. Whoa!
They don't have to be the
Um,
top questions of all time. Just two of the favorite come to mind.
I have dreams of hosting a salon. Do you know what a salon is?
Yeah.
Do you?
Not the hair kind, the French kind.
Yes. I want this. It's my dream. For, like, the longest time, my dream was to take a road trip to Nebraska and, like, go to a pizza parlor and talk to people because I was like, "I am the furthest thing from Nebraska into Little Rhode Island." Like, what if I wanna just learn about people and, like, what a strange dream, but it was my and then it turned into the salon thing where you invite people over, like a selected group of curated group of people, food, da da, but, like, a question or, like, 2 or 3 questions for the night and just, like, people expand on it. And one of the questions I've always thought I'd ask in my salon is, what from your ancestors is in you now,
Mhm.
because it opens up this like where are you coming from? And what about you isn't just you? What has affected you? What's in your lineage? Um, what about you is part of a much bigger story than I know right now? So I love the questions that get to like I love thinking about generations and space and geological time and just like things get big. Um, so that's one. And I'd say um another one is it's just it might be they're like it's pedestrian. So like that's the big one. That's the big like whoa. Something like that. What in your kids do you see in you? What's just them? Like I love asking that question. Um, but some of the most like useful questions I have, like just like workhorse questions, are things like, what's exciting for you right now? What is that like? What was it like to experience that? Those I would elevate to favorite questions because they punch way above their weight in terms of just cracking open conversations. But the one I'd use for my salon in the future, which you will obviously be attending, is
Yeah.
the ancestor one.
Yeah. Cool. Um, my favorite questions have so many parallels to yours. So, yes, what you just said, the workhorse questions, right? How was that? How's that landing with you? How are you doing with that? All of those. Um, I have 3 that are coming to mind. I'm gonna break my own rule. I asked you for 2, and now I'm gonna give you 3.
I
Um,
was glad I had limits.
the one of my favorite questions for myself is, "What would this look like if it were easy?" Again, a Tim Ferriss question. So
Mhm.
when I'm at my wit's end about something, like, "Okay, what would it look like if I wasn't struggling with this?" And that allows me to take different perspectives or maybe take something that I'm trying to do that's really big and make it much smaller to try to get to the same outcome. Um, Second question, and this goes back to coaching, is how are you working against yourself in this process? I love helping people take a different perspective on, like, well, what if I'm the problem? And it's just a really empowering question because when they see themselves as a victim, then and somebody else is doing this to me, it makes it really difficult to do anything about it. But when we circle back to, okay, well, what is within your control to change by just working,
Yeah.
focusing on yourself? So that's a question I'd love to bring to coaching. And then the third question is really similar to your question about, what about your ancestors is in you, but it's actually the opposite. And I actually host dinners. I call them heresies dinners, and they are kind of Jeffersonian dinners where
I'm coming to read up just for this.
where the question and
So cool.
everybody who attends is expected to bring an answer to this question. The question is, what is a controversial idea that your friends or people you look up to would potentially find repulsive, that you believe is true, that you did not adopt or inherit from somebody else and came up with on your own?
Oh, wow. Wait, is this the topic for every dinner?
It's a heresy. Yeah. What are your heresies?
Oh,
What are the heretical beliefs you hold that you came up with on your own, that your friends, the people you look up to, would think are potentially terrible? And so people come with answers like, I think the death penalty, like topics, like opinions on the death penalty, or I think assisted suicide should be legal, or, stuff like that. The kinds of
yeah,
questions we would be scared to the kinds of opinions we hold that we'd be scared to share with even our closest friends. These
yeah.
conversations are a venue for sharing them.
That's so cool. I wanna be a fly on the wall to that dinner. Oh, you like that a lot.
Mm. Cool.
I have so much more in me about questions, but this feels like a sane time to stop. I mean, like, no wonder the 2 of us? Of course we're gonna
Yeah,
go long on this,
yeah,
so maybe we do split it up into 2, but
yeah,
this is good. This is a
yeah.
good
A
place to
mutual
wind
acquaintance
up.
told us that the best episodes are the ones that are simple, and we kind of, dropped the ball on this one. But hopefully, for those who are still here with us, one, thank you for sticking around, and two, hopefully you got something out of it.
Alright, friend. I'm gonna sign off for the night. That was fun. That was good. Talk soon.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.